everybody, welcome to another episode here at Trade Hog. We're going to test the hog and we're doing it live. So anybody wants to ask a question, anybody wants to ask something that we can ask the hog, feel free to chime in and let us know. We're more than happy to do that. So again, doing the hog, testing the hog is one of those things where we're constantly trying to test it in order for it to get better and better and better. And the only way to do that is to ask it questions and do things like that. So if you want to test out the hog, you want to see it, but we're going to kind of give you a rundown of what's on the website. What's up, CG? Thanks for joining us. And just kind of give you an overview what the hog is all about. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for that. So let's go look at the hog real quick and see what we got. So here's the hog. Again, for those that are familiar with it, people are asking me, I'm getting constant emails. They go, what is exactly Trade Hog? What is it for? Who's it for? What is it about? Well, the hog is designed to help the trade person out in the field. Whether or not you're a plumber, mechanical, HVAC, it really doesn't matter. You have questions out in the field. And so I created the Trade Hog using a very detailed artificial intelligence model. We base it on OpenAI. And then what we do is we pay to be a partner and actually enhance it and develop it so that it kind of is tailored to the construction industry. I mean, that's what we're going for with it. And so I can tell you many times out in the field back in the day, you know, there were certain things that I would see and I just would like, okay, who do I ask? If I see something that as an inspector, for example, you know, if you were a municipal inspector and you wore many hats, right? You were electrical, you were plumbing, you were mechanical, you're wearing all these different hats. So one of the great uses for Trade Hog is the ability to find the answers. You know, I might have been more skilled at electrical than most. And I had weaker things, right? The weaker parts of me were actually things like the electrical questions that plumbing questions, or the mechanical questions, or the building questions. You know, electrical, I'm okay. I was like, okay. But there's certain things that, you know, that I might see and I question. And again, rather than have my code book handy, it would have been nice to have a resource. And so that is one of the things that the Trade Hog does. It brings that resource. So you can ask it all kinds of questions, different technical questions. But I'll kind of give you a rundown of what you got going on over here. So Chief Hog is our main hog-driven type of Chief Hog. That is the main interface. Where you're asking very technical questions. You simply scroll down and right here, you just type your question in right here. Or you can cut and paste, whatever you want to do. Now, on the free version on tradehog.net, which I encourage all of you to check out, you're going to be limited to the amount of requests that you can do. Okay? So you're going to be limited. You got 5 requests per single visit per hour. This is to let you dip your toe in, ask it some questions, interact with it, and things like that. But I wanted to kind of give you an example of some questions and details and kind of see what it does as far as bringing you information. And if you're joining us on the live stream and you've got a question, you're thinking about, okay, how does Trade Hog help me? Please ask your question in the comments, whatever platform you're watching on. And I am more than happy to elaborate on how it can help you. As a code professional, I can only think of many times where I'd like a second set of eyes on something, and that's what Trade Hog actually can do. So let's just do an example here. So some of these pre-populated questions we have here are basically just to kind of let you check it out. But also, by the way, up here you have latest questions. If you click on this, you'll see there's some populated questions here that you can utilize here on the screen. Just to bring up stuff like how often is the NEC updated and why? Okay, so if I just click that, and we might be getting rid of these latest questions because again, in the free version, it makes sense. In the paid version, It really doesn't make sense because you really are trying to bring your own ideas. So currently in the first release of what we got now, we've got it up there because we kind of want you to play with it and things like that. But as you can see, it propagates it down here. This is where you typically would type in your information and click send. And this will send us through the AI model. And remember, it's looking for it and trying to be more involved with codes and standards and all those type of things. So again, the NEC is updated every 3 years. And it kind of just gives you a little background into it. Okay, the updates are driven by proposals from industry professionals, code officials, and other stakeholders. You're a stakeholder. If you're an electrician and you're in the field, Angel, there's no win today, brother. That's for coffee hours. So again, appreciate that. I get people. We're trained in this model, right? No need for the win today. This is just talking about Trade Hog, but I appreciate it though. All right, so we'll just do this in new chat, and we'll ask it another question. It may be a technical, technical question. Is let's see. Can you explain the rules associated with, let's see here, NM cable? I'm just going to give it a question and ask it. Okay. So can you explain the rules associated with NM cable? Just to, if I was just asking it a question, again, this is geared towards maybe asking more technical type of questions, but just asking that question. And let's see what the hog brings back. The hog is thinking. Let's see what it brings back. All right, so look at all the detail that Trade Hog brings back, okay? When discussing non-metallic sheet cable, talks about uses and installation. Again, see, it gives you the code references, okay? Uses permitted, uses not permitted. Prohibited uses, again, 334.12 talks about that. Supported and securing talks about all that. Gives you the code reference here. Okay, that's information is great. Bending radius gives you that 5 times the diameter. All really good stuff. It reminds you of the ampacity conductors. Okay, yada yada. Let's see, physical damage 300.4. All this kind of stuff. Now, the neat thing about Trade Hog is that I can ask it deeper questions. For example, like I might want to say after this, I'm just testing the hog. And this is what I like to do because it learns. I said, can I use NM cable outside in a wet location? Okay. So just want to ask it. Maybe you're a contractor. Maybe you're an inspector. Maybe you're somebody in the field and you're like, I don't know, can I use it? Again, I don't know the answers are going to come back, right? We're testing the hog. So I'll just click it. And it says, can I use NM cable outside in a wet location? And its answer comes back with a resounding no. Okay? NM cable is not permitted in a wet or damp location. And it tells you this according with the NEC. And then it gives you a little bit of information and goes on further and further and further. Also, it makes reference to a UF cable, which I love how the hog's doing this. The reference is UF cable, and of course, then it gives you the reference in 340, which is about UF cable. So that's another great example of how the hog works. I might ask it a question. Let's say in here, let's say is maybe I'm a builder, and I'm asking a question, and I can say, well, what is the maximum horizontal span on a deck with a cantilever? And don't worry about the spelling. It'll sort it out itself. Cantilever. What is the maximum horizontal span on a deck with a cantilever that I can run a 2x12 board? Okay, I'm just asking questions. I'm trying to see if I can stump the hog here. So we'll just run it. And I just want to show you the things that can come back and what you can use, things you can use it for. And that's the most important thing, is why would I want this in my pocket? And here you go. To determine the maximum horizontal span of a 2x12 board used for decking with a cantilever. Okay, you see, it didn't matter how I spelled cantilever. It knew what was going on. It's using the residential code 2021 edition. Gives me the code references, joist span, the distance between joists, yada, yada, yada. For example, if you're using a number 2 grade Southern Pine 2x12 with 16-inch on center spans, the IRC table R507.6 might allow a maximum span of approximately 18 feet with a cantilever up to 3 feet. However, these may depend on special conditions. Like I said above, you have to look. That's dealing with live loads. And this is typically talking about a live load of 40 pounds per square foot, okay, and dead load of 10 pounds per square foot, okay. But here's the important thing. If I'm a builder and I'm a deck builder or whatever, this is just a starting point for me. I might already have some pretty good knowledge of the code. I might already understand this. So you're saying, how would I use this different than like a normal Chat GPT or something, which is going to bring back very generic info. Here, it's hyper focused on the codes. Again, it gets rid of the fluff, that type of thing. So I might looking at this if you know your condition, then you can feed your condition that you're dealing with into it, and it will look it up, that type of thing. So I think that's an important model because it's something that you can build onto it, right? And let's see here. Let's do that clear. And let's see here. Let's see let's go. What are the smoke alarm requirements for a single family, gotta spell right, family dwelling per the NFPA? Oh no, let's just do that. What are the smoke alarm requirements for a single family dwelling? Okay, let's just test it and see what the hog brings back. All right, so maybe you don't know the requirements. Let's see what it says. All right, the hog is thinking. You see the little dots right here moving. All right, so the hog also looked at the IRC, and it also looked at what? It also looked at NFPA 72. So that right there is amazing, because you would be surprised at the number of questions I get about smoke alarms, and they're technically out of the scope of the NEC, and we have to push them to some other document in the IRC. They may not have an IRC, may not have one handy. And then, of course, the NFPA 72. Of course, you could always use also the literature that comes with the smoke alarms if you still have it. Most people put those up and toss it. But there's your references. So it says, according to R314.3 and NFPA 72, smoke alarms must be installed in each sleeping room, and then outside each separate sleeping area in the immediate vicinity of the bedrooms, and then one on each story of the dwelling, including basements and habitable attics. Okay, but does not include crawl spaces and uninhabitable attics. Okay, next it goes into the interconnection, means that they all have to communicate. Well, it didn't need to go to that detail, but it did. It looked at IRC section 314.4. It says smoke alarms must be interconnected in such a manner that the activation of one alarm will activate all the alarms in the dwelling. Okay, this can be achieved through hardwiring or wireless technology. Power source. The IRC 314.6 smoke alarms must receive their primary power from the building's wiring and have a battery backup. The exception is for smoke alarms that are solely battery operated in existing areas where no construction is taking place. So if it was existing construction, it was already there, then you don't have to bring that existing area up to the code with the hardwired and interconnected. That is an exception in the allowance there. So it's important to know that. But anyway, you can see where it goes into installation. It goes into testing and then replacement. Okay, recommends every 10 years. That's, again, the recommendation by NFPA 72. All these type of things. So what's neat about the hog is I could build on any one of these questions. If there's something that I'm asking it that I don't understand or it wasn't clear, I can ask it further follow-up questions. Or I can start a whole new chat. Maybe I find something that I want to ask it's totally separate, and then I want to do it in a total separate thing. So I can copy any of this and right click and copy, and then start a new chat and paste it, and then have my discussion primarily on that discussion and not need the other information because I wanted to get something out of it, right? Like for this, for example, right here, if I wanted to do this and I copied this, right, then I could do a new chat and I could say, can you explain, and I paste it in here in more detail, okay? Just like that. And then I click send. All right, now, there's a reason why it didn't give me the answer, because this was the free version and I have reached my limits. So what would I do if I'm really liking what I see, I'm seeing that it's helping me out, all right, then I have to go and purchase it, okay? In this case, I'm gonna log in. Okay, and then when you log in, you're gonna see that it changes down here. Okay, and that is limits. I can have up to 50 searches, interactions with the paid version, the premium, that I can have that per hour. 25 for the basic, which is usually more than you need. All right, so now I'm gonna start a whole new concept here. So I'm gonna, oops, hold on here. I'm gonna say, okay, can you explain in more detail? Okay, so remember I got that from the other one, and I want to explain this code section. Maybe I'm not understanding the code section. Maybe I need to dig it deeper. All right, then I can click that and let the hog look it up. Dig deeper, and boom. It says certainly section R314.3 pertains to the location requirements for smoke alarms in residential buildings. Here you see that it goes into the detail, additional considerations. So it's talking about split level homes, kind of gives you some advice, some common sense type of stuff. Okay, it's amazing to be able to have something to ask those pressing questions to. And that's what the hog is really designed for. Now, one of the things I will tell you that we added to the trade hog was the office hog. Now, the reason we added the office hog, because we didn't want to forget about the folks that are back in the office, the ones that are doing things like looking at a review or looking at a contract or evaluating something or give me some tips for marketing and stuff like that. But I don't want it to bring back all this code jargon. I want it to be specific to the trades, construction, but I want it to bring me back stuff that I might get if I used a normal chat GPT. But I don't want it to bring me back the fluff. I want it to bring me back specific information, and I want it to be tailored because I needed to know that I'm in the construction industry. I'm in the trades type of thing. So what you do is you go over here to Office Hog, click on it, and you get a little more professional hog here. He's sitting at the office doing some plan review or whatever, that type of thing. And interesting thing is here, you see a bunch of these popular examples because we really wanted to show you what the hog can do, because I could ask it an HR question. I can ask it a marketing question. I can ask it a tax related question. When are my taxes due? When do I file for Chapter C Corp? What's the difference between a C and an S corporation? Many things that I can ask it. I can ask it, what are some safe ways to terminate an employee so I don't get in trouble? You can ask it for, can you give me suggestions for a pay raise schedule for my employees, right? So I'll just here, so I'll ask it, can you give me a recommendation for a pay raise schedule for my employees? Okay, I'm just, just throwing spitballs at it and see what it says, okay? All right, just typing it in. Now, this is the Office Hog. This is the back end, right? And we'll see what the hog comes up with. Hog is thinking hard on this one. Wow, there you go. Look at all this information. Creating a pay raise schedule for your construction. Notice how I didn't say, here's something that's important, guys. Notice I said nothing at all about being in construction. I didn't say a word about it. So this should convince you that in the back end, we are plugging things in. We are doing things on the back end that are not the same. Because if I ask that question to a generic, it's not going to know anything about construction. It's not going to even think about that type of thing. So here, I plugged that in, and I'm using the Office Hog, and it came back and said right here, it says creating a pay raise schedule for your construction business. I didn't say anything about a construction business. Okay, for all it knew, I could have been talking about a hot dog stand, but it knew. And it says involves several considerations to ensure fairness, competitiveness, and alignment with your business goals. Here's a structured approach to developing an effective pay raise schedule. Okay, assessment of current pay structure, benchmarks, it gives it, and I could deep dive on any one of these. If I didn't understand it, I can dig deeper on any of this. Okay, now you can take all this, you can left click, go over it, then right click and copy it if you want. That type of scenario. Okay. Tenure-based increases, longevity awards, incentive training, all this type of things. And I can ask it anything that I want, okay? Let's see here. Maybe I've got this scenario let's see here. I have an employee that is always late. What is a good way to terminate this employee without causing issues with my company or with hiring and firing laws? Now, of course, if you're in a right to work state, they can fire you for any reason anyway, but just kind of a question we're asking to see what kind of things that the Office Hog can bring us back. And of course, the logical stuff should be if you have a policy, they should be following the policy. If they repeatedly defy the policy and you document this, then obviously you have all the grounds in the world for termination. But it's one of those things where it's good to have some advice, right? And usually you pay for this advice. Well, here you're getting it as part. It says terminating employee for constant tardiness requires careful adherence to legal and procedural standards to avoid potential issues. Here's a structured approach to handling this situation, okay? All right, review company policy. Hopefully you have a company policy. If not, it should prompt you to create one. Even if it's very basic, you should always have a company policy, okay? Verify that this employee has acknowledged receipt and understanding of these policies. So make sure that when you do a policy, if you happen to have one for your company, make sure that the people acknowledge that they got it and that they read it, okay? Next, document the tardiness. Keep detailed records. That goes without saying. Document any previous verbal or written warning given to the employee regarding their punctuality, okay? Progressive decline. Implement a progressive decline process. If not already in place, the typical includes verbal warnings, written warnings, and the final warning before termination, okay? So again, progressive discipline process means make sure are you going to do a warning, verbal, written, and then of course, final, that type of thing. Conduct a meeting. Schedule a meeting with employee to discuss their tardiness, present the documentation, instance, and explain the impact on the team, company, operation. Offer employee an opportunity to explain any mitigating circumstances and discuss potential solutions and accommodations. At that point, you have to determine whether you're going to get rid of somebody or not. If you're willing to give them another chance, maybe they're a good employee, and you really want to lay the law down and say, look, I'm done with all this back and forth. I'm going to give you one final warning. If the behavior does not improve, issue a final warning. That's it. Clearly stating your continued tardiness will result in termination. Anyway, the point is, here's your legal compliance. Okay, ensure compliance with federal and state employment laws, including the requirements for final paychecks and benefits. Don't withhold anybody's money. Yada, yada, yada. Post termination, conduct an exit interview if appropriate to ensure the employee returns any company property, all that type of stuff. The point being is Office Hog is an amazing tool to use when your company may be small or mid-size and you don't have an extensive HR and you want to ask certain questions. Now, not to take the place of a lawyer, not to take the place of accountants, not the place of all those licensing requirement things. This is just to give you good information, good starting point. And that's the main focus on it, okay? But anyway, that is called the Office Hog, and it's included, by the way. It's included in all of the subscriptions to Trade Hog. People want to know what the pricing is for Trade Hog. It is $19.95 a month or $29.95 a month. The only difference in the two is that you're allowed 25 inquiries for $19.95, and the $29.95 it says 100 here, and on the thing you saw that it was limited to 50. That will be changed. We want it to. It's going to be 50 is what it actually is, and that's way more than you need. But anyway, this is how you get it, and you just click either one of these buttons, and you can get started. That's the pricing. The forums are, again, this is optimized for your phone, so that's why it looks like it's a little bit off to the left here. These are optimized for the phone, and all you do is come in here, and you can click on it, and it will bring back an announcement, a topic. If you want to add a post, you can add your own here. If you want to read something that's posted, okay, that type of thing, it's all in here, right? So let's see here. Let's go back to the beginning here. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, what Trade Hog's all about. If you need to contact us at any time, you just go right and click contact. I'll click on that to show you. Right here, all you got to do is just fill out this information right here and click get in touch, and you can get in touch with us from there as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it, folks, with the with Trade Hog. It's designed to be that expert in your pocket. Ask you the questions, answering the questions that you've been wanting and needing answered. And not being afraid to ask additional follow-up questions in order to dig deeper. That is basically the whole concept of it, okay? So it's one of those things that it's designed to dig deeper into the question, okay? Let's see here. Now, also we'll tell you in a question, if you write such a long string question with loose ends on it, then it can be problematic for anything. So again, if people are looking to have, you know that old saying, crap in, crap out, is one of those type of things that you have to be careful about, okay? Because again, that's just kind of how the models work. But let's see here. It says, if I have a junction box, I will install an outlet receptacle. So it's a device in an outlet box. And it is metal box. And I have a 10 and a 12 as feed out. What size wire I need for bonding the electric box? Well, if you're talking about the metal box, obviously you're going to bond it with the 10 because it's larger than the 12. Okay, that's the box bond. Now, if you bring all the conductors together and you jump to the device, then you're obviously going to use the size bonding jumper dependent on the size of the circuit and the conductors that are supplying the device. Okay, but let's do this. Let's copy and let's go over here to the hog and paste this in the hog and make sure I got it all in there. Let me get rid of the names because that doesn't make sense for us to have that. And let's see what the hog. So this is a very convoluted type of question because it goes in two paths. But let's see what the hog does. A lot of information from the hog. Okay. Determine the approach according to 250.120. The size of the equipment ground detector is based on the rating and setting of the overcurrent device. Correct. Ahead of the circuits, since you're asking about bonding the metal box specifically, we need to ensure that the EGC is appropriately sized for the circuit conductors. All right. Determine the overcurrent protected device. Identify the rating of the circuit breaker and fuses. Yada yada. Okay. Refer to 251.22. This table provides a minimum size for equipment grounded conductors based on the rating of the overcurrent device. Okay. All true statements. Sorry about that. Let me get rid of your thing here, CJ or CG, so you can see this. Okay, so it says if the circuit is protected by a 20 amp, the minimum EGC would be a 12. That's correct. If it's a circuit protected by a 30, the minimum EGC would be a 10. That's correct. Now, bonding of the metal box. It says per 250.148, the EGC must be connected to the metal box using the ground screw or listed grounding device. Could be one of those little clips, you know what I'm saying? And that is 250.148C specifies that the grounding screw used for the metal box does not require to be a green finish. That's important because a lot of people think that. But the screw that goes in the box does not have to be green, but it can be. It says ensure that the EGC is properly connected to the metal box and that all connections are secure and maintain the integrity of the grounding path. Summary, the size of the bonding conductor for the metal box will be determined by the size of the overcurrent protected device. You should refer to table 250.122 for the appropriate size. Okay, so this is a great example where I go, let's see here. How would I do this? Since I have a 12 AWG and a 10 AWG entering the metal box, which size would I use to bond the metal box? Okay, so you see what I did? I took a very generic question. And again, remember that the AI models don't have the ability to think like you want to think. It just sees one long sentence. So the ability to be able to feed into it is what we want to use. So let's do that and let's see what the hog has to say. And let's see what great question, CG, though. I appreciate it. Allows us to test the hog. All right. Okay, so again, it brings you back a lot of freaking information. Okay, so it's learned what you're asking, and it says this information again. Code references are accurate. Okay. And it says identify the overcurrent devices. We've done that. Refer to 250.122. We've done that. So it says a circuit with a 10 is protected by a 30. So the minimum size EGC would be a 10. The 12 is protected by a 20. So the minimum EGC would be a 12. Since you have both the 10 and the 12 entering the box, you should use the larger size required by the largest overcurrent. Therefore, if the 10 AWG conductor is protecting the 30 amp, you would use the 10 EGC to bond the metal box. And it ends up reiterating this in a summary, right? And at the end of the day, it says, in this case, you would use the 10 if the 10 conductor is protected by the 30. So it was a win-win-win for the hog. But you see how I had to do that? Okay, because it didn't give me that right away. It's giving me the sizing and everything, and it boxed, but I'm like, and it gave me all the code references, but I'm like, wait a minute, hog. I want to know exactly what I use. So if I've got a 12 and a 10 coming into that metal box, give me the freaking answer. So you see how you can keep asking it? And here it went into more detail, and then it gave you all these sizes. And it ultimately says you use the 10 because that is true. If you have 12s and 10s coming in and we're bonding the metal box, since it's mutual to both circuits, then we're going to use the larger EGC for that application. Okay. Another question I might say, when in the NEC is the ground screw required to be green? I don't know. So let's see. Let's just say. So I'm going to hit that. Let's see. But you see, CG, how we build onto it and we make sure we get the answers. Okay. So here, the green screw on the device, 250.126, that needs to be green. That is correct. Main bonding jumpers, 250-28B. It has to have, if you're using a screw, it's got to have this green finish. Okay, if it's a screw, right? And then here it says grounding screws in metal boxes, 250-148. It says specifies in box do not need to have a green finish. Okay, because they don't. So this is one of those things that I don't know, man. I'm going to tell you what. Taking the model of a normal chat GTP and doing this, and we can even test that, dude. Let's see here. Let me test this. Let's do this. Let me show you. Let's take this real quick. Let me copy this. All right, I'm going to do something real quick here. Hold on, guys. Since I'm live, I'm going to do this real quick. All right, let me share this screen with you. All right, here we go. Here we go. So we're in, this is Chat GTP. I'm going to type that same exact question in there. Okay, when is the NEC, when in the NEC is the green screw required to be green? Let's see what the generic Chat GTP tells us. I'll move my head if I got to move my head. My head's usually too big anyway. So it's still thinking, it's contemplating, it's doing its thought reasoning process, it's looking through it, you know, it's coming back and it's thinking. Okay, now it says it wants to come back. Now let me move me real quick, just so I can make me a little smaller so we don't lose what we got here. Okay, it says the NEC requires that any connection meant for an equipment grounding connector be identified with green. Again, any connection. In practice, this means that when a screw is used to secure the equipment grounding conductor to an electrical device, like a receptacle switch, that it must be green. Okay, this requirement is outlined in 250.119. Okay, so whenever you see a screw being used for grounding connection, it is required to be green. Folks, you just saw, this is always amazes me. You just saw the generic Chat GPT. This is what people are paying for. I can tell you, the one I'm showing you right here, see this right here? I'm paying $20 a month for this. And it brought back that all of those connections are required to be green. That is not true. That is false. So you see, the generic Chat GPTs are not accurate for what we need, guys. It is not what we need to make sure that we get very accurate responses for all of our technical stuff. It should be proof to everybody. This should have been a proofing. Is our trade hog going to always be perfect? It will if you keep asking it questions, we can get the answer. But at the end of the day, right out the bat, ours was correct. And that's important because if I'm going to be using something in the field, I need to make sure that it's going to be very accurate. And I want it to be tailored specifically to the codes. So at the end of the day, I think you clearly saw there's a difference between using something like a Chat GPT that you pay $20 a month for, or using our Trade Hog, which you can pay $19.95 a month for. And you also get the Office Hog, which you can ask it stuff that is tailored to your industry. Now, that doesn't mean you can't ask the hog something else in the Office Hog one. Go for it, right? You can do that. But it's, for example, let me show you. So here's Trade Hog. I'm going to ask it, what is the secret to living a long and healthy life? Which I can be honest with you, I have no idea how to do that. If you knew what I ate and what I did, you'd say, okay, whatever. So what is the secret to living a long and healthy life? It's going to bring you some results, okay? So look at here. It brought you results, right? There's no doubt about it, it's going to bring you results, okay? Because it's still a learning model, okay? But it says, again, here, always consult a healthcare professional. Because again, at the end of the day, and I could say, watch this, isn't this for healthcare professionals? when needing answers to questions. Watch this. Let's see what the hog says. Look, it says, while I understand your concern, yada, 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 right? Okay. Of course, it gives you some treatment plans and all that type of stuff, but it's not geared to be for construction trade. I mean, for healthcare, but it will bring you different things. It's still at the end of the day, it's still, and the point reason I did this is at the end of the day, it's still built on the very impressive open AI model. We are just building on top of it. And we are making sure that it brings back results that you can actually use in the field. That's what we're looking for. I don't have time for the fluff. I need to ask it a technical question, and I need to get an answer quickly. It's just like CGs. That was believe it or not, that was a very technical question, because we still have people that don't understand that if I have a 10 and a 12 coming into a metal box, that I have to use the 10 to bond the box, okay? Still very, very technical type of stuff, but at the end of the day, people just don't understand it. And so the hog is going to be amazing for people to help reduce the learning curve. I may have a terminology that I don't understand. I might have something that I read in the code book I don't understand. For students, it's great because you could take if you have Link, for example, I could copy something out of Link, right? And post it in here, okay? So I can say here, can you define accessibility as it pertains to electrical work? Just ask it a question. All right, so I'm just gonna, can you obtain accessibility? I probably spelt that wrong. It doesn't matter. It's smart enough to understand what I'm typing. And look what it did. It says the context of electrical work, accessibility refers to ability to reach electrical equipment, devices, and wiring for inspection, maintenance, and repair without the need to remove any part of the building structure or finish. The National Electrical Code, NEC, provides specific definitions and requirements related to accessibility. Okay, Article 100, it talks about it as it applies to equipment, readily accessible, Article 100. Guys, this thing is geared to help you in the field. No way about it. It's designed to be that go-to tool. I'd be honest with you, I don't know why somebody hasn't come up with this yet. When AI came out about 2 years ago, and I know you can ask questions to ChatGPT. You saw just a minute ago that it is not accurate. I'm not sure why somebody didn't come out with this earlier, but I can tell you how I came out with it, right? I actually was sitting here in the office, and I was going through emails, and I was doing these Let's Ask Pauls, and I was answering a lot of questions for people. And I got to say, isn't there something? It's got to be something that would allow the ability to be very detailed in its responses, but also double check itself. And so I started researching it, looking into it, and then we saw an opportunity to purchase software that allowed us to integrate an open AI model, but then it allowed the ability for us to fine tune that and make sure that we get very responsive results for the trades. And then I said, wait a minute, we got something here. If I've got something that I can ask it a question and say, okay, maybe I'm sitting here on the field and I'm on the job site. My brother does this all the time. All right, let's say I'm on the job site. And I says, does a temporary pole, a temporary service pole, let's do that, service pole, require a grounding electrode system? Okay, that's my first, see how I'm doing this test right here? I'm building onto it. Okay, so I'm going to ask the question, does a temporary service pole require a grounding electrode system? What does it say? It says yes. A temporary pole does require a grounding electrical system. According to the National Electrical Code, all electrical services, including temporaries, must be grounded to ensure safe and proper operation. NEC 250-32A, this section requires that a grounding electrical system be attached at each building. Okay, and it says or. And I can say, is there more after the or? Because it's basically stopped when it gave you the information. But you could say, look, is there more after the or? And see what it says. Oh, I can't reach it because I reached my token limit, because look how long this string was. You do have token limit. That's too long. We needed to start a new thread, okay? So, because I was asking way too many questions, right? So it's changed. So that is an important thing about AI. You have to change the thread because you're limited in the number of tokens. What is a token? A number of text. Number of text tokens. So you just can't have an endless conversation on for days. It's not a limitation on us. It's a limitation on the AI that we use and we pull from, okay? So again, so what I'm going to do is I will do this. I will copy this question. Watch this, copy, okay? You see all this info right here? That's why I got to the or and stop. That's what stopped. So let's go up here, show you how to get around that. Just do a new chat, paste it in there, and now you're on the race. You're off to the races again. So there you go. Same basic information, yes, right? That type of thing. And like we asked before, we said the temporary pole, whatever, ensures that the pole is properly grounded. Okay. So next question would be, how many ground rods, if rods are being used, are required at the temporary service pole? Okay, very common question. People ask these things all the time. So let's go and see. All right, here it says using ground rods at the grounding electrode for temporary pole. At least 2 rods are typically required unless a single rod specifies. Basically, if you have 25 ohms or less, then the second one is not necessary. Okay, and they're 6 feet apart. Huge, because I don't know how many people out there think that a temporary pole only requires 1 ground rod. A service is a service, whether you consider it temporary or going to be there forever. And I understand some jurisdictions will let you get away with 1 rod. And, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But the reality is the code doesn't care whether it's a temporary service or it is a permanent service. Why? Because lightning doesn't care. Surges don't care. None of it cares. And it can affect whatever you're plugging into that temporary pole and whatever you're plugging into that panel or those receptacles. Lightning and surges, they don't care. So I don't care whether it's temporary, okay, that type of thing, okay? Can you finish the question? Okay, for this one, for this question, okay. What is the conductor size for the GEC for the above question? Okay, let's see what it says. See how I'm logic training it? And let's do this here. Let's just ask it. See what it says. All right. It says the size of the ground electric conductor for the temporary poles using the ground rods is determined by sizing the service entrance conductors according to 250.66a. Because we're using rods, the GEC is based on the largest ungrounded conductor or equivalent area for parallels. For ground rods, 250.60a allows the GEC to be no smaller than a 6 copper, regardless of the service size. Okay, this is because the resistance of the ground rods limits the current that can flow through the GEC, making 6 copper conductors sufficient for the purpose. Now, you know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking 6, but this is just a generic response because that's what's in the code. Okay, but I might ask this question because I'm going to try to trick the code. I'm going to try to trick the hog because I'm going to tell you right now. Let me tell you this, folks. The hog is smart. But when it comes to the National Electrical Code, it ain't as smart as me. And that's the thing that you folks always have to remember. Nothing is going to take the place of your trade. AI is not going to replace you in the field. It's a tool. That's all it is. Okay. So in this scenario, I'm going to say, okay, but what if the service was 100 amps? Okay. Does the GEC to the rods still need to be 6 AWG? All right, so we're just going to ask it the question, see what it says. Remember, I'm trying to break the hog, okay? So it says, yes, for 100 amp service using ground rods, the ground electric still needs to be at least 6 copper, okay? All right? The hog is wrong. The hog is wrong, but it's because it also doesn't understand, right? So watch how I train the hog. This is what we're going to train the hog. Watch me say this. I'm going to train the hog. I'm going to say, that is incorrect. The use of 250.66A, watch this, A is a choice. The user could use table 250.66. Sorry, guys. The glare in the room makes it hard for me to see the keyboard. The user could use table 250, which would allow 8 AWG for the ground rods. Since the conductor, hold on here. Hold on, I'll just do that for the ground rods. Now watch and see what it says. It's thinking. I apologize for the oversight. You are correct. Well, of course I am. I do this for a living, right? I'm just saying, okay? So some people say, well, it got it wrong. No, if you're a code person and you already have a good, this is not for the novice. If you're using it as a tool in the field, you might have extra knowledge of the code and you just want reaffirming something. Its reference to 250.66A does say 6, okay? It's just not required to be larger. This means that while you can use an 8 conductor based on table 250.66, you also have the option to use 6 copper as a maximum size for these types of electrodes. Thank you for pointing out that clarification, okay? And then I might want to go in and say, what are some disadvantages? Okay, I'm going to re-go back to using 8 AWG CU than 6 AWG CU in this case. All right, and let's see what it brings back. All right, using 6 instead of using 8 instead of 6, okay, has some disadvantages. One, mechanical strength. 8 is smaller than a 6, okay, blah, blah, blah. Here, it talks about protection. 250.64B requires that GC be protected from physical damage, yada, yada. That's true, okay? So again, all of those references are very true. Compliance, okay? While 8 is permissible for 100 amp service per table 250.66, using 6 copper, it provides a greater margin of compliance. It also aligns with 250.66A as a whole. Standardization, again, just maybe getting you used to 6. Then you don't have to worry about protecting it from physical damage if it's not exposed to physical damage. If it's 8, you still got to put it in a raceway regardless. So there's a reason our model may bring back the 6 anyway, because it's thinking about it in the whole essence of what's better for your situation. Well, what's better for your situation is to use a 6, because if you use an 8, you're going to have to protect it with a raceway, that type of thing. So we're trying to train the model to look at all the scenarios, and it's impossible. It is no way it can be. Look, if that was the case, and I'm glad you bring all this up, CG, because if that was the case, you would not need experts. You would not even, need to ever worry about the code book or understand how to maneuver the code books and things like that. That is not what this AI is all about. It allows me to ask questions. I might have more knowledge than it on certain things. So you ask it a follow-up question and it'll apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't give that a consideration. As we keep training the module, like for example, that will be added, that kind of thing will be added to the future model. So it will come back differently. We're constantly growing it and expanding it. But that's a great example of where I can interject myself, and maybe you as a trade professional, you do have certain knowledge that you can feed into the hog, and it helps it. It helps us. It helps the hog. It helps us make it smarter. And that's a part of being in the program, because you get to go to those forums, and maybe if you encountered something that's unique, you can post it in there and say, hey, Paul, I did a search and this is what happened. And it helps us make it better. And that's our goal. I want to make the best tool I can to help a contractor in the field. And that was a great example. Again, thanks, CG. That was a great example of asking a question and then digging it deeper. And I think most people would say, I'm just going to run a 6 for ground rods, right? But how many of you actually know that you could run an 8? That type of scenario. So I think that's real important that you understand the concepts of that. And I can ask the same question. I can go right here. And if I don't run out of threads, I can go, how does this, let me take you over there. Let me show you something. Let's watch this. How does this apply to a concrete encased electrode? Right? So I'm just going to ask it. And see what it says. So we're using a concrete encased electrode, U for ground, okay, commonly known as a UFER. I'm impressed with it, did that, because I didn't say anything about UFER. I'm impressed with that. It says the size of is determined by, the size of the ground electrode is determined by, differently than a rod, pipe, or plate, of course. According to 250.60b, the GEC for the concrete encased electrode does not need to be larger than a 4. This is because a concrete encased electrode has very low resistance path to earth, which can handle larger fault currents effectively. Again, limitations for concrete encased electrodes. The GEC is not required to be larger than a 4, regardless of the size of the surface conductors. It's important things that people forget. Here, mechanical. Using a 4 provides both the mechanical strength for the electrical capacity needed for the effective grounding with the concrete encased electrode. The larger the size compared to 6 and 8 ensures durability and reliability. I got you with that. In summary, when using a concrete encased electrode, the NEC allows for the larger GEC size and limitations of 4 copper, which provides both mechanical and electrical advantages. Now, I know what you're saying. Let's ask it. Does it need to be a 4 WG like the previous, like the previous example for ground rods? If we use table 250.66 and the service is 100 amps. Okay, I'm truly trying to break the hog here. I really am. So let's see what it says. All right, we're pushing the hog here. Hog's going to get mad at me. Okay. Say for 100 amp service using concrete lane, the ground electric conductor size can be determined by table 250.60 based on the size of the largest conductor. However, 250.60b specifies that the GEC for concrete does not need to be larger than the 4 regardless of the service size. So if you refer to the table, 100 amp size might be smaller than a 4, depending on the size of the service engine conductors. For example, if the service engine conductors are 4 copper, table 250.66 would typically require an 8 AWG. We just saw that. See how the model learned? You see how I just learned? It says, however, the specific requirements for a concrete electrode allows for the use up to a 4, providing a maximum size limit rather than a minimum. So it doesn't have to be larger than a 4. Okay, so in summary, while table 250.66 might allow for a smaller conductor based on the service engine conductor size, NEC 250.66 permits the use of a 4 copper grounding electrode conductor for the concrete encased electrode, offering flexibility and durability, compliance with the code. So it's learning, and it learns within your conversation, and we're going to make it smarter. You have my commitment that we're going to be, every time we learn about something, we're feeding it into the model. We're trying to add it into the model. So do we expect it to be 100% all the time? No. Do we expect it to be a learning model? Yes. And we expect it to continually keep learning and learning and learning. Okay, so that's what we've got. Okay. So anyway, that's just an example. I didn't mean to take a whole hour, but that's just an example of, and actually I skipped my lunch today for my other job in order to do this. So I'm 1 minute over, so I gotta have to go. But I wanted to be able to show you the hog and how it works. It's constantly learning, and it's only going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. We've only had AI technology for about 2 years. So we're late to the game, but we're going to keep feeding this model, and it's going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. And who's going to benefit? You folks are going to benefit. All right? All right, folks, till next time, stay safe. God bless. Give the hog a try. It's free. Just go to tradehog.net and give it a shot. If you like what you see, think about being a subscriber. Take care. God bless.